I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
When Sean Diddy Combs' properties were raided in March of 2024, there was a lot of speculation about what might be found inside and whether it would be connected to any of his celebrity friends and acquaintances. As Homeland Security agents poured out of his mansions in LA and Miami with boxes full of electronics, there were rumors that if Combs filmed his elaborate sex performances called freak-offs or other parties, there could be video evidence of possible criminal activity. And the celebrity at the center of a lot of rumors, warranted or not, was Justin Bieber.
It started like any other afternoon in the digital age. A sudden ripple across social media that didn't come from a press release, a gossip outlet, or a tabloid. This time it came from Justin Bieber himself. No flashy production, no big setup, just Bieber sitting in what looked like a quiet room speaking directly to the camera.
For the last several days, social media has been full of videos of Sean Combs. You can't click on TikTok or X without seeing something about Diddy. It's practically all you see, and this, of course, comes after Combs' arrest on racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking charges. At this point, Combs is accused of sex trafficking involving one victim, his ex-girlfriend of many years, Cassie Ventura. The indictment says the allegations date back to 2008. Combs has pleaded not guilty, and his lawyer says he hasn't committed any crimes. But there are a lot of people questioning who knew what and when, given that at least part of what Cassie Ventura claimed was backed up by a video obtained by CNN that showed Combs beating Cassie Ventura as the U.S. attorney said she tried to escape one of his freak-off sex parties. And many people are wondering whether other celebrities were a part of these freak-offs, and worse, is it possible that some people, maybe other celebrities, were actually victimized? We don't know at this point, but what we do know is that videos of Sean Combs and Justin Bieber have been all over X and TikTok for days. Specifically this one when Bieber was 15.
As soon as you turn 16, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you rock this every time you
Right
come
here?
to LA. Yeah, this is gonna be yours. So every time you come
Okay.
to LA, it's a little dusty, but you know, come get the front shot of this.
Man.
Hand that out. Minute.
Woo. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna be driving this next year.
Now that video has been viewed more than 5 million times on Justin Bieber's YouTube channel. He was 15 at the time, and he was staying with Combs for 48 hours.
You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album.
Justin Bieber is now a pop megastar. He's loved by fans around the world. In 2009, at the time of this video, though, he wasn't really known. He was just a kid, and his first album was coming out. Bieber is originally from Canada, and Usher signed him to manage his career. Usher actually got his start in the business through Sean Combs. He lived with him for a year when he was 13, and Usher talked about his time living with Combs on the Howard Stern show back in 2016. He was sent to what was called Puffy Flavor Camp.
And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
in the 90s. Do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
Nah, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come.
I say his tone was steady, but the weight in his eyes was undeniable. This wasn't an interview where he was laughing through old memories or dodging uncomfortable questions with charm. This was different. He began softly, almost conversationally, describing the early years when the world first met him. The endless touring, the whirlwind of cameras, the chaos that became his normal life before he even had the chance to understand what normal was supposed to mean. He painted the picture of that time with careful strokes. The exhaustion, the pressure, the way grown men would make decisions for him while telling him it was all in his best interest. And then the name came, Diddy, not as a casual shout-out or a music industry anecdote, but as the center of a series of stories that Bieber admitted he had never shared publicly. At first, it was vague enough to make you lean in. Mentorship, invitations, trips, late-night conversations. But then, as his words kept flowing, the details began to sharpen.
Now, when asked if he would send his kids to live with Sean Combs, Usher said, hell no. But back to Justin Bieber and the videos of him making the rounds with Combs. The one from when he was 15 has raised some eyebrows given what we know now.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. What you want to do? What you want to do over the next 48 hours?
48 hours. Let's go. Let's just go get some girls. Let's go hang out some girls.
A man after my heart. That's what I'm talking about.
Now, let's be clear. This could have all just been a joke. But in 2020, Justin Bieber gave a tearful interview to Apple Music in which he talked about wanting to protect Billie Eilish from the music industry and the things that he had been through. There are other videos of Bieber and Combs that have circulated online.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
Again, does this video mean anything? It could just be a teenage kid caught in an awkward moment. In 2015, Combs presented Bieber with an American Music Award for Best Collaboration. And there's another video showing a birthday celebration. It shows an exchange on one of Bieber's birthdays. And finally, the fourth video making the rounds was recorded 3 years ago.
Thank you. Love you.
Let's play that again. Some speculated that Combs was looking to see whether Bieber was wearing a wire when he patted him down. It seemed a little awkward for sure. Around this time last year, Combs and Bieber collaborated on the song Moments for Diddy's The Love album, Off the Grid. This was, of course, before the first allegations made by Cassie Ventura surfaced. Combs settled the suit with her in a day, and then the federal raid happened in March of this year. So far, Justin Bieber, like many people who know Combs, has been silent. There may be a good reason for that. He just became a father for the first time. A source close to Bieber told People he's aware of Diddy's arrest and the allegations, but added, it's not anything that he wants to focus on, though. The insider, likely Bieber's publicist, continued, saying Bieber's been in a happy bubble since baby Jack was born, and he just wants to focus on being a great dad and husband. That is also completely understandable. Justin Bieber's a first-time father. He should want to enjoy this time and cherish every moment of it. But that hasn't stopped the chatter. This TikTok video from Bieber's father-in-law, actor Stephen Baldwin, has just added to the speculation about Diddy and Bieber.
You have heard the expression.
He spoke of moments that didn't feel right even then, of situations that seemed harmless to outsiders but left him uneasy. He described the way Diddy could be warm one moment and distant the next, how he would push for trust but keep control. The internet didn't just listen, it erupted. Within minutes, snippets of Bieber's words were clipped, subtitled, and shared across every platform. Hashtags trended, comment sections filled with shock, disbelief, and for some, grim recognition. This wasn't a wild accusation coming from nowhere. This was Justin Bieber, someone who had been in the public eye for more than a decade, carefully breaking his silence. And while Bieber didn't shout or accuse in an explosive way, the power was in his restraint. He didn't need to scream. The implications of his words spoke louder than volume ever could. Back in Diddy's world, the reaction was swift and volatile. According to insiders, the moment he saw the clip, his demeanor changed instantly. This wasn't coming from a journalist he could dismiss.
The calm before the storm. There is always a calm before the storm, but then so is there another calm after the storm. There's a calm and then a storm and then another calm.
So you get the gist. And no one knows whether Stephen Baldwin was actually referring to the Sean Combs situation or his son-in-law, Justin Bieber, but that video certainly has had people on X wondering. I want to bring in Mitra Ahorian. She is an entertainment attorney in Los Angeles. So Mitra, what are people saying out there on the street? What's the chatter in Hollywood about Sean Combs' arrest?
I think the chatter is some of what we're already hearing in the news, except that there are actual people who were at these parties who have interacted with him. Puffy was one of the, and is, we can say is, one of the most influential artists and producers in the hip hop world. We all grew up listening to his music. He's been, responsible for bringing a lot of artists, developing a lot of other artists. And so he was so tied into the celebrity world for such a long time that, of course, everyone sort of interacted with him, right? The level of interaction is sort of what's going to vary. So in terms of the chatter that's going around, everyone, I think, is just thinking, oh, wow, like I've spent time with this person or I've worked with this person, and they may not necessarily have known what was going on behind closed doors or the extent of it. So I think the chatter is really more about, wow, we didn't know this level of perversion, dare I say.
So there's a distinction in Hollywood between going to a Diddy party and a freak off, because the freak offs are what the U.S. attorney says were illegal. So you're saying, it sounds like that people are saying, well, I went to a party, maybe a white party or some other type of Diddy party, but I didn't go to a freak off.
Yeah, I think, definitely people are going to be wanting to distance themselves from the freak-offs, right? So this weird phrase that he came up with and sort of the things that are coming out about what allegedly took place at these sort of orchestrated orgies with, minors and sex workers and, the kind of things that I think a lot of people who are, who maybe didn't participate in that aspect of it are very shocked at. And so there is absolutely a distancing, and it's not just, parties, right? Though celebrities had actual friendships with Diddy. Right? They spent time together outside of going to parties with going to parties at his house or anything like that. And they might have even partied with him just in the context of just, normally, what we think of normal partying, so to speak. But, and that.
Or a faceless social media rumor mill. This was coming from Bieber, the same young artist Diddy had once publicly celebrated. The same person he had been photographed with countless times. The same kid he had once called family in front of cameras. Calls went out to legal teams, PR representatives, and inner circle allies. What could be done? Could this be stopped? But stopping it wasn't possible. Bieber's words had already escaped into the digital bloodstream, and there was no pulling them back. Meanwhile, Bieber's revelations grew deeper. He recounted a particular night, not with sensationalized drama, but with unsettling precision, the kind of memory you can't erase, even when you try. A trip that was supposed to be about industry networking, but left him feeling cornered. Late-night gatherings that blurred lines. The way he felt like a piece in a much larger game he didn't understand at the time.
A victim of his alleged predatory and inappropriate behavior. Well, I'll tell you what, now, as week one of Combs' sex trafficking and racketeering trial comes to a close, Justin Bieber's camp is finally responding. So his representatives told TMZ, quote, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who are genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. So to talk about this, I want to bring back on former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani. Nima, so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming here on Sidebar. I want to talk about the timing of this statement from Justin Bieber's camp. This can't be just a coincidence.
No, it can't be, because one of the biggest questions in the Diddy trial is what other celebrities will be named, who participated in the freak-offs and who witnessed the freak-offs. I mean, Diddy's white parties are infamous, and one of the victims that people have been talking about for about a year and a half now has been Justin Bieber. And now finally, after week 1 of trial, when we know that Don Richard is the next witness and we're going to start hearing who the government thinks is going to help corroborate their case, we are not going to hear from Justin Bieber. And it really goes back to a video when he was about 15 years old, when Combs said he was going to spend 48 hours with Justin Bieber. And that's when all the speculation began. Bieber's camp didn't say anything until now, but I think it's important that he did. And he also, like many celebrities in Hollywood, want to stay as far away from the Diddy trial as possible.
Because you think that there was talk of him testifying and he didn't, he wanted to shut that down.
I think so. I think people want to know, because look, the trial's lasting 2 months, right? 8 weeks, maybe even 10 weeks. And I know Judge Subramanian is trying to move it along as quickly as he can. But now that Cassie Ventura is wrapping up her testimony, we know that we're going to hear from a couple other victims. But the government needs to fill that time. And what they want to do is put on victims that really aren't in a romantic relationship and never have been with Combs, right? Cassie got impeached with some of that, the emails, the text messages, the words that she put, those words of affirmation. So to the extent that there are other victims, that's how the government's going to be able to overwhelm the defense here. And if it's a celebrity victim, even better.
See, here's the thing. I think about it, and I'm sure he didn't want to, I guess the idea is, not distract from the conversation that's being had, but to make a statement towards the end of the week, after opening statements, or towards the conclusion of Cassandra Ventura's testimony, when he makes a statement confirming that there were people harmed by Combs, does that signify to you that he believes the prosecution's case, or does he think it's beyond the criminal case and based on the accusations we've seen in the civil arena?
I think it's probably the former. And like you said, the key part of that statement was denying that he was a victim, but really talking about the other victims. And it wasn't alleged victims. He said other victims, well, through his spokesperson. So I think that is very, very important. This isn't a Michael Jackson type case where, celebrities are rushing to Combs' defense. Very few people are. And the fact that you have someone come out that really isn't 50 Cent or someone who, is trying to make light of it, or a documentary about it and really point the finger at Diddy, that's a big deal, Jesse.
And he mentioned harm.
It wasn't just what Bieber said, it was how he said it. The silences between his words, the pauses where you could see him weighing whether or not to continue. Those pauses were louder than anything else, leaving the audience filling in the blanks with their own imaginations. And in the court of public opinion, imagination is often the most dangerous weapon of all. As Bieber's video racked up millions of views, people began digging. Old interviews were resurfaced. Footage of Bieber and Diddy together was being rewatched through a new lens. That handshake here, that arm around the shoulder there, nothing was immune from reinterpretation. For Diddy, the pressure cooker was on full blast. His team feared that more was coming. After all, if Bieber had decided to speak now, what was stopping others from doing the same? The music industry is small when it comes to secrets. And once one person starts peeling back the layers, more stories tend to follow. Behind closed doors, Diddy reportedly demanded to know why Bieber had chosen this moment. Was it connected
by him, right? It was very specific language that were genuinely harmed by him, and the shifting focus away from this reality distracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. There's no way to parse that language.
There isn't, and the defense is obviously trying to separate physical harm from sex trafficking and sexual assault, but the average person who's watching isn't going to be making that distinction. That may matter in the case, but it's not going to matter in the court of public opinion.
And Bieber's statement, it comes as this TikTok started floating around on Friday. There was a doctored image of Bieber where he allegedly announces that he's going to testify against Combs, but the video was quickly debunked as fake. And Nima, you think at the end of the day, are we going to see some celebrity or celebrity friends testify at this trial?
I think we have to, because there's got to be independent witnesses that, saw some of this, right? I'm not saying maybe the actual freak-offs themselves, maybe there are other participants, but, Combs was very public, and Cassie Ventura, to the extent that she was abused, it's like Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, right? You got Kate Moss was brought into that case. People that are rich and famous celebrities, they have rich and famous celebrity friends, right? That's why Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. We're talking about Taylor Swift. This is a small circle here in Hollywood. So the independent witnesses are very likely going to be other celebrities. So I think we're just starting to scratch the surface when it comes to that.
So the question becomes, why do fans believe that Justin Bieber could have been one of Sean Combs' targets, right? You mentioned it before. Well, as the legal saga against Combs ramped up last year, there was video clips that started to resurface of Combs and Bieber spending some time together. And people noticed that the videos often kind of straddled the line between awkward and inappropriate. And Bieber sometimes seemed really uncomfortable. For example, when Bieber was 15 years old, he uploaded a video to his YouTube channel called 48 Hours with Diddy. And this is where he said he was going to be hanging out with the rapper for a couple of days.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream.
Now, some fans called out Combs for allegedly grooming behavior they say was exhibited in this video, spending time at his home with a young kid who's suddenly been thrown into the world of fame and money, taking him under his wing, offering up opportunities, maybe gifts that he could only dream of.
Yeah, so as soon as you turn 16, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let you rock this every time you come in LA. Yeah, it's gonna be yours. So, every time you come in LA, it's a little dusty, but you know, go get the front shot of it.
Man.
And then out. Minute.
Woo. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna be driving this next year.
Now, look, of course, this could all be for the camera, could be performative. Bieber could have left right after this. We don't really know, but the video made the rounds. Speculation around Combs grew. And then another clip surfaced, and this one posted to Combs' YouTube page showing another interaction, this time apparently in a studio.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good?
Everything's
Selling
great.
out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
The other storms swirling around him. Was it revenge, payback, or simply the weight of truth finally breaking free? Nobody seemed to have an answer, but the public wasn't waiting for explanations. Every outlet, from major news organizations to independent YouTube channels, was dissecting the story in real time. Panel discussions erupted. Industry veterans weighed in, and former associates started to hint that Bieber wasn't the only one with a story to tell. Then came the whispers of more content. That Bieber might not have revealed everything in that first video. That there were other moments, other encounters that he was holding back. And that possibility alone was enough to send shockwaves through Diddy's already fragile public standing. By nightfall, the conversation had shifted from disbelief to something far heavier. It wasn't about whether Bieber was telling the truth. It was about what else might be buried in the shadows of his past interactions with Diddy. And as history has shown, once the public's curiosity turns into collective investigation, things tend to get very messy very quickly. For Diddy, the realization was setting in. He wasn't dealing with a headline that would fade in a few days. He was now the subject of a story that people weren't going to let go. Bieber had cracked open a door that many didn't even know existed, and the crowd outside was pushing to see what was behind it. The next morning, the fallout was visible everywhere. Morning shows led with the story. Talk radio buzzed with callers debating who knew what and when. Social media wasn't slowing down, if anything.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right, okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's awkward. I don't know. It could have been a joke for the cameras. Nima, what do you take away from these videos?
Yeah, it's awkward and it's weird. So, look, if it's just by itself, maybe you look past it. But there's been a lot of allegations involving minors, not in the criminal case. That hasn't been charged. That would be a game changer, but in the civil lawsuit. So I'm not saying that those are true, but sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. And you have a lot of these civil claimants alleging that Combs is also sexually abusing men and boys and children. So again, not charged in the criminal case, but given those allegations out there, I think it's something that people are going to pick up on, and rumors and speculation are going to fly.
So, according to sources who spoke to TMZ, Bieber was actually friends with Combs' sons, and that many of his past public appearances with Combs have been, quote, performative. So in 2015, Combs presented Bieber with an American Music Award for Best Collaboration and gave him a big hug on stage. And then in 2020, Bieber did an interview with Apple Music. And in it, he expressed how he wishes he could protect other young artists like Billie Eilish from some of what he experienced in the music industry as a teenager. But he didn't really elaborate beyond that. And one of Bieber's most recent interactions with Combs was even more awkward than the prior ones, if that's possible. It reportedly took place in 2021. Nima, I want you to take a look at this with me, okay? So in the video, Bieber, with shaggy hair, under a baseball cap, he greets Diddy. He's got a big smile on his face, but something seems just a little bit off about the whole thing because Combs seems to pat Bieber's chest. There are some who have speculated that he was making sure Bieber wasn't wearing a wire, even though there's no way to actually confirm that. Nima, what do you make of that?
Yeah, awkward and weird. I'm not surprised people think that he was patting him down. Just not something that you typically see. And again, it's just part of this real pattern of kind of strange conduct between Combs and Bieber. So I understand why people are speculating that it's something more than just this innocent friendship.
You know, in 2023, Bieber had collaborated with Combs on the song Moments from Combs' last studio release. It's called the Love Album, Off the Grid, and it featured collaborations with a lot of different artists. Justin Bieber has had a lot of ups and downs over the years. We pretty much watched him grow up, and that meant that many of his mistakes and questionable decisions were fodder for the tabloids. You know, in fact, Law and Crime Sierra Gillespie actually put together a great episode on Bieber's latest struggles in the spotlight for our new channel, Scandal. I encourage everybody to go check it out. But there has been speculation that possible abuse in Bieber's past could be a source for some of his bad boy behavior and potential mental health problems in recent years. Now, Nima, that could be a stretch. Some could see it as a connection. Are you think there's something to that or not?
It could, you know, people are speculating, right? I mean, obviously I'm here in Hollywood and people will see Justin Bieber looking disheveled or losing weight. And, you know, of course, the tabloids are going to jump to conclusions, right? Is it drugs? Is it relationship problems? Is it trauma from past sex abuse? And it's really impossible to know what, if anything, he's going through, but he does appear to be acting and looking differently as of late.
But some will say, you know,
it was accelerating. Every hour brought new threads, new receipts, and new voices chiming in. As Bieber spoke, the internet caught fire. Clips spread across social media like a storm front moving in. People who had been following the rumors for years were suddenly leaning forward, listening to every word. What he was describing wasn't just uncomfortable. It was disturbing. Encounters that didn't sit right. Invitations that came with strings. Situations that blurred the line between mentorship and control. Behind the scenes, Diddy was hearing about it in real time. The reactions, the commentary, the speculation, it was all hitting him like a tidal wave. Inside his camp, phones were ringing nonstop. PR teams scrambled, lawyers were called, but the damage had already begun to take shape. Bieber wasn't just telling a story, he was pulling back a curtain. And the more he spoke, the heavier it got. Late night meetings, trips that didn't feel like trips. Promises that sounded like opportunities, but in hindsight came with shadows. Bieber's voice stayed steady, but you could hear it. That edge, that weight of someone revisiting memories they tried to bury. For Diddy, the fallout was immediate. Sources close to him described his reaction as explosive. He wasn't just angry, he was blindsided. This wasn't coming from a rival, an anonymous blog, or a faceless accusation. This was coming from Justin Bieber, the global superstar he had once publicly embraced. Someone the world.
3 warrant particular emphasis. 1. Continued reports of inordinate periods of lockdown. 2. Claims that the facility provides inadequate and or substantially delayed necessary medical care, a particular risk in this case. And 3. General issues about the conditions at the facility. These conditions have not abated in Mr. Combs' detention at the facility. As the court is aware, during Mr. Combs' incarceration at the MDC, the facility was subject to an interagency sweep that was designed to achieve our shared goal of maintaining a safe environment for both our employees and the incarcerated individuals housed at MDC Brooklyn. They're actually quoting what the rationale was. In other words, there is a significant issue at the MDC related to the safety of employees and incarcerated individuals that require outside law enforcement action from multiple agencies to address. Importantly, MDC, as a jail, has a significant law enforcement presence within its walls 24 hours per day that are equipped with investigatory and often unregulated authority. Thus, the requirement of outside law enforcement agencies to ensure safety within the MDC is an admission that serious violence, mayhem, and chaos is occurring within the MDC that requires more than a Band-Aid raid, but rather surgery. Indeed, we are aware of ongoing threats of violence and actual violence in the facility such that Mr. Combs' safety is constantly at risk. And they go on to argue, though Mr. Combs has been a model inmate for his nearly year-long period of confinement, the violent conditions are still very much a concern for Mr. Combs and is an unnecessary confinement risk given the clear precedent of multiple similarly situated Mann Act convictions where defendants were released on conditions. Now, the government, by the way, would probably disagree with that statement of him being a model inmate. Remember when they accused Combs of trying to arrange three-way phone calls and buying the use of other inmates' phone privileges to try to make sure the government wasn't listening in, that he was having these private conversations, that he was allegedly trying to contact witnesses in the case, that he allegedly orchestrated a birthday campaign to help his public image while he was locked up. So if we hear a government response, I'm sure they're going to say something about that. Then, the defense highlights he's not a risk of flight, he's not a danger to the community, which, by the way, I think are real key points here. But they seem to echo a lot of the same arguments that they have already stated to the court. And remember, they haven't been successful in the past. That he voluntarily came to New York last year to surrender himself to authorities, that he gave up his passport to his attorneys 6 months before his arrest, paid off his mortgage on his Miami home so it was free and clear for him to stay at while out on bond. He was just acquitted of the most serious charges that he was facing, which, by the way, carried decades, if not life in prison. That he's not a risk of flight. That's the basic argument. Now, when it comes to the danger argument, that is key. Why? Judge Subramanian had said after the verdict that the reason he was denying bail was because of Combs' violence, that his own attorneys admitted he was violent during the course of the trial. Well, here is what Combs' defense attorneys argue about that. Quote, the court noted that the defense admitted a history of domestic violence as to Miss Ventura and that he struck Jane twice in June 2024. However, we strenuously object that Mr. Combs poses a danger to the community, aside from a single instance on June 18, 2024, where Mr. Combs was provoked by Jane through her own acts of violence. There was no evidence of any acts of violence in the last 7 years. Indeed, the jury notably rejected the government's argument.
Thought he had nothing but love for ours. The story was everywhere. Talk shows dissected every sentence. Former insiders began coming forward, adding their own pieces to the puzzle. The narrative was shifting, and for Diddy, control was slipping through his fingers. Behind closed doors, he demanded answers. Who had convinced Bieber to speak now? Why was this happening in the middle of everything else swirling around his name? And most importantly, how far was Bieber willing to go? The internet wasn't waiting for answers. They were digging. Old photos resurfaced. Videos from years ago were being rewatched with a new lens. Every smile, every handshake, every interaction was being reinterpreted. And somewhere, away from the cameras and the noise, Bieber had to know exactly what he'd done. He had shifted the narrative in a way that few could. And for Diddy, it wasn't just about denying or defending anymore. It was about survival in an environment where the truth, once unleashed, has a way of spreading far beyond anyone's control. Because now the world wasn't just looking at Diddy as a mogul, a celebrity, or an industry giant. They were looking at him through the eyes of someone who had once been the young, impressionable face of pop music, and who had decided that it was finally time to speak. And the truth, no matter how much power you have, has a way of making even the strongest walls crumble.